Look at this thing, absolutely tiny. This is the Canon EF 24mm F2.8, a pancake lens specifically designed for the crop sensor EF mount cameras, which is gonna fit perfectly for my Pocket 6K. My funny idea with this lens is to see if I could actually make my camera pocketable. Nope, that's just a joke. But my actual reason to purchasing this lens is to see if I could rig something together where it's nice and compact for me to just walk about and get B-roll without having the kit be too taxing on my body, especially when it comes to weight. Hi everyone, my name is Stefan, and I want to talk about this lens, how it's somewhat consumed me in really fully re-rigging my setup here to kind of complement the weight and the compactness, because I've really found something that works for me here. So let's put it together and then see what that looks like, and then we can talk about what's working and what's not working so well. Let's answer some real questions right off the bat. How well is this working? Starting off with sharpness, for me personally, I think it's okay. I find, stopping it down just a little bit makes a huge difference. But if you really are in a clutch and you have to use that 2.8, it's fine. Compared to the Sigma 18 to 35, if that lens is at a 10 on a sharpness scale, this lens I would place around 7, wide open, but maybe stop down, it definitely gets to an 8 or a 9. 24mm on a crop sensor is about 35mm full frame equivalent, which is a very flexible focal length. It's wide enough, zoomed in enough to really cover any type of scenario that you want, whether you're indoor or outdoor. This kit also allows for a great gimbal setup. Because everything is so compact, it really makes balancing and just rigging a whole gimbal really easy and really quick. The lens has full-time autofocus, which means you can just override that focus ring and focus the camera if it's having trouble catching focus. I think it's a big plus when we're looking at photo lenses and we're adapting those to a cinema camera. And this lens is very affordable. I only paid about $100 Canadian for it. So it's not too much of an investment, and if this is something that is not working for me, I'm finding that these lenses move, so I can just easily resell it. And finally, the biggest thing going for the lens is that compactness, that pancake form factor. It really makes this kit quite flexible. Even if you have to travel with this, it's very travel friendly. You can tear this down and put it in a carry-on and really not feel like you've lost a lot of space. Since day one, this was something mentioned by Caleb Pike, that the flange distance on an EF mount just sits so far up front that no matter how compact you keep your kit, if that lens is heavy, and especially if it's a zoom lens, it just makes things really hard by setting the center mass of gravity so far up front that it's gonna make a heavy lens even heavier. So one thing that this pancake lens does really well is it really hides that issue really well, and it just makes this very well balanced and very compact, which is the biggest plus I could say about this kit, honestly, because that's a real issue, especially for when we are heavily rigging these cameras and when we're going handheld. That compactness is great, but it does come at a cost, really, because the space here is limited, and unfortunately Canon didn't have enough, room to just build a proper focus ring for us to mount some sort of focus gear or anything that is going to be helpful for a motor or a follow focus gear to latch on. And even honestly, with just using your hand to focus this lens, it's a bit difficult simply because that ring is so small. And so in the pressure of shooting and, worrying about a million things, having to look for this focus ring and, gripping it turning it, it's just not an ideal situation. And one thing about the focus ring that makes this whole issue even worse is that this lens has focus by wire, and this is an early adaptation of focus by wire, so it's pretty bad. And finally, when we're keeping things this compact, this small, we know it's going to introduce some micro jitters, so that's another problem that we're going to have to find a solution for. I have come up with my own solution to these problems, and if this is something you're interested in having, then perhaps see if you can apply them and see if they can work for you. So let's talk about some possible solutions. The first one is a crazy one, I know, but we are gonna have to rely on autofocus because simply I just don't see what else I could do to work around this lack of space here around the focus ring. So, the autofocus, it's a single point autofocus system. It's not the greatest, but it does work. Obviously it will hunt, and when it does, that's when we can override. I think it's fine for cases where we're just on our own capturing B-roll, say it's a wedding or some documentary form stuff. But I think this would look really bad if you have a feed going back to a director or a producer and they're watching the camera hunt. So that is a no-go in that situation. But again, if you're just, walking about and you're capturing B-roll, I think it's fine. The best way I've found to get rid of the micro jitters is to use some sort of a saddleback solution. I don't have one, so I just use my shoulder bag. I'll just bring it up to the front, set the camera, and it completely gets rid of the micro jitters. And I'm always shooting raw, so if it's really bad, sometimes I will just use the gyroscopic data to stabilize in post. That's the benefit of using DaVinci Resolve. And, you could throw on an easy rig, but honestly, the whole point of this setup is just to be compact and mobile and have, the freedom to be able to move around very easily. So a easy rig, I feel like, is just not the right approach with this. I would say perhaps even a monopod would be better. But if you want to go handheld, the EVF is going to be a good third point of contact, but it still will introduce micro jitters. The saddlebag I found to be really the best solution. So that's pretty much it. And if I may share a bit more context in terms of why this is so useful, again, I was just finding myself a bit tired at times because the weight of the camera, it becomes a bit of an interruption, with my creative flow. I'm no longer really thinking about the project. I'm no longer thinking creatively. I'm just really tired and my body is requiring a break. And that's okay, but, it's not a good place to be if you want to, do your best. And again, this is something we love to do, this is a creative outlet for us. We want to be in it, I guess, in the long run, it's a healthier solution as well. So if I'm able to just, walk around and get what I need to get and, not have it be too taxing on my body, then why not, And then when I do need to rig it out, in a studio or a closed set type environment, then I could do that. That's not an issue. But, going handheld, like for example, like a music show, this is perfect. A wedding, I shot a documentary. I even shot a music video with this kit. Just super, super compact and really easy and, not too intrusive on the process, which is a big, big plus for me. But yeah, I honestly, I love it. I think I'm just so proud of this, the way it came out, the way it looks. To me, it almost looks stock. Like if Blackmagic came with a fixed lens, then I feel like it wouldn't be too far from this. And even, the press photos, like originally, the original Pocket Cinema Camera, what made it pocketable was that pancake lens. So that was a big inspiration for me to say, hey, why don't I look into getting one for this camera? But now I'm just rambling. Please, if you have any questions about the rig, put them down in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you. I hope this was something helpful. I hope this was something interesting. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate you. Take care.